My name is Marcus and welcome to Tabletop Reviews, where I sit on my couch next to my tabletop and review something. Today it is another game. It is a game called Doomlings. Maybe you can see it. It's the black box. I like the look of it, but yeah, Doomlings Kickstarter was 3 months delayed, the biggest delay so far to my big Kickstarter backing, but don't worry. Anyways, let's head to the table, talk about how it's set up and get played. Here we are at the top of the table with Doomlings, ready to set it up and do what we must to prepare for the end of the world. So there's a few steps for setting up the game. So first of all, you take the Birth of Life cards and put it to the side. You will need that later. Then you will have to take the Ages cards and you will split them up. And you will find, first of all, you will find 3 catastrophes. And you kind of just shuffle them up and pick out 3 random ones. Then you pick out 3 random Ages for each catastrophe card, creating 3 piles of 4. Now these will be individually shuffled up and then just simply added on top of one another. And then you'll take the Birth of Life and add that at the very tippity top of that pile. And just set the rest of the Ages and the catastrophes aside. You will not need them for the game. Then you will grab a gene pool card for each of the players, throwing them out to each of the players so they have those. And then you will take up the trait cards, a massive pile of traits, and you will distribute 5 cards to each player. And the rest of the trait piles you will put in the middle of the board so each player can reach them. And there you go. So that's the game set up here. I've set it up for 3 players just to show. The game goes on with until the 3rd catastrophe hits. When the 3rd catastrophe hits, the game ends immediately, right away. And then you count up the points, and the winner with one with the most amount of points is the winner, of course. To start off the game, you flip over the Birth of Life card. Now this is just like any other normal age card. It has an effect. You set your gene pool to 5. Now your gene pool is your gene pool card. You can set that to 5. And that's the amount of cards you can have on your hand by the end of your turn. So this is active for the first round. The first player goes. He will play a card from his hand, whatever one he wants to play. I cannot give you a proper example. This all depends on what you have on your hand, of course. But he plays a card. He then ends his turn by stabilizing. This means making sure that the amount of cards you have in your hand is the same as the one on your gene pool. So if you've played a card and your gene pool haven't changed, you'll draw a card. Maybe you played a card that made your gene pool go up, so you'll draw 2 cards. Or an opponent played one, so it goes down, you'll have to discard some cards. Many things might happen to change the amount you can have on your hand at all times. Now you go clockwise, everybody playing a card, stabilizing, and then when every player has gone, then you flip over the next age card, and it says something that will happen either throughout the round or immediately, and you keep on going until you have hit 3 catastrophes. Now, catastrophe is usually not something good, but it will have multiple actions. Let's take this one for example. Overpopulation. +1 to your gene pool. So it's a pretty good one. And then you will draw 1 card for every color type in your trait pile. So obviously, this means if you have a green, a purple and a blue, well, you get to draw 3 cards. So this one wasn't actually that bad. They can be way worse. Now you might notice the yellow ticks. World's End. Well, the World's End is when you've drawn 3 catastrophe cards. And this can happen on various moments, because of course you have a guarantee of 3 age cards before any catastrophe card, but the final catastrophe card can show up whenever. Now, Of course, the top actions, the white ones, you'll do no matter what. This one says -1 to the gene pool and discard all but one card from your hand. So you will do that. But then it starts the world's end. And this can be something terribly horrible. This can be something great. It all depends on the card itself. And that's how you play the game. Once you hit the third catastrophe, the game ends and you'll count up points. One of the most amount of points win, of course. So the way you will count points is sometimes a world's end card gives you something about points. It tells you something about points. You will count those points first. Gain 2 points for whatever, or lose points for whatever, and you count those first. Then you simply count up the value of each of these traits. They have a little circle with a 1 in it, or if there is a star, that is a 0 points. You'll add all those up together, and then you will count any bonus modifier, you know, if there says if the text on a card is something about gaining points because of this, or if you have a number of this, whatever, count those up, add them to a total, and then you can figure out who is the winner. There you go. Now there's actually a rule for a tie that I like. If in the rare, it reads, let me read for you. In the rare event of a tie, we leave it to the fate. We leave it to fate. Draw a trait from the top of the deck and apply only the face value to your final score. And I imagine just continue doing this until someone has won. If you continue to draw. But I actually like that. That's a nice way of tying up resolving ties. But anyways, that is for my final thoughts. We will head up to right now. And we are back from the table and ready to talk about my final thoughts on it. Yeah, sprinting through this one. I just got a call. I gotta go to work a little bit, so we can go through it. Yeah, setup and the gameplay is very simple. Nothing noteworthy really. I just recorded the Unstable Games episode, but so no, there isn't really, you play a card and then you stabilize to your hand. There's a few things within, you have a certain hand size, then you stabilize at the end. I think the stabilizing thing is a cool thing where you can increase or decrease it depending on things. But really what makes different this one is the cards and how they affect one another with this sort of take that, but not really also. As I said, I'm comparing this maybe a little bit to Unstable Unicorns. And I do prefer this one because the cards and their powers are very different from the Unstable Unicorns powers that are in there. Because to me the card powers make the entire difference of, what I think of the gameplay of this one. Really do take it to another level with the things you can do. And of course I love the fact of dominant traits. I didn't mention that, I forgot to mention, but you have dominant traits in here which are way more powerful, but you can only have 2 of them, and they, one of them, you clear everything and you only have that one. So maybe not, depending on your situation. So I really think those little things make a big difference in how engaged you are with the gameplay. Now components is, I'm just gonna repeat from Unstable Games, as I said, good quality card, a perfectly fine rulebook, and a good box. The cards are very good, reminiscence of a game like Unstable Unicorns and the other card games are just good quality cards. The rulebook is another fold out. I've said it before in some other episodes, I do prefer the manual you go through, but it's fine, and it goes through things. You're not in doubt of where the things are. Now the box gets a plus from me. I've said this before, I do prefer this kind of box. I just like to take it off like this and then put it back on. I do like that. So that box gets a plus from me on this one. And of course the artwork is the simplistic artwork, but it's cute and it does the thing, it does the trick. And it's how you get these spheres these balls to look so different from one another, and you can really notice what they're trying to do. I think that's kind of impressive and shows of a good artist at work. And of course my latest thing that I'm talking about, theme. There's a bit of theme in this. I mean, this is about surviving and getting ready for the end of the world, and the way you go through these phases, the eras, you sort of need to have a little bit of a theme in there for that to work without being weird. But at the same time, I can probably mention a couple others. I mean, you could do a game about Noah's Ark in this style, I think. So there's a few things. So it's a little bit of theme in there that helps it to work a little bit better with the mechanics. But it's not an overly thematic game. It's a little card game, you know. So yeah. Does it lie to you? It says on the box, 2 to 6 players, ages 10 and up, 20 to 45 minutes. So 2 to 6 players, sure. I mean, if you got the playmats like I did, you can only play 6 players. But yeah, again, it's a little bit, you know, the amount of cards that are in it, depending on if you get expansion or whatever, you can maybe exceed a little bit. But to me, it's all about having enough cards to consistently play. And I think you can play a little bit more, maybe not. So, and then ages 10 and up. Depends on how well that kid reads. And it's an English game, so I'm talking from the perspective of a Danish person who knows some 10-year-olds I can play with and some 10-year-olds I can't play with, all depending on how well they read and understand what they read. And then you have 20 to 45 minutes. It seems accurate enough, you know, less than an hour, but not too short. But yeah. But that of course depends, because you have a minimum amount of eras you're going to go through. For every catastrophe, there has to be 3. Now you can have the catastrophe at the beginning for the final ones, but then you still have to go through 3, 6, 7 rounds. So depending on how quick you are, you have to go through. Yeah, the Birth of Life. No, that's incorrect, because you have 4. So so that's 9 rounds. If the final catastrophe is at the top of its 4 card pile. So, 9 rounds minimum you have to play through. That takes a little while, especially if you have a lot of cards and you have to think, oh, this one. So it gives something. But I think it's fairly accurate. I'm having this one on its head. So yeah, does it lie to you? Nah. Not really. But I'm just gonna put this one on correctly real quick, because there we go. So the score I'm gonna give it, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. As I said, I enjoyed more than Unstable Unicorns, which is what I'm comparing it to. Last week's episode, if I upload it correctly. I will. And I think it's better than that. The cards and the powers really change up the game a little bit. And you have a bit more options, I think, just because the card powers, because in Unicorns you could get stuck and just kind of have one option, but with this one there's a lot of different things you can do, and gives you a few more choices, but still it's kind of lucky. The cards you draw will determine it. The eras can really change up, and the catastrophes even more. So it is quite lucky. But it's a good game, and I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Again, take that in this one, definitely. But I do enjoy some take that, so depends on who you are, what you think of take that. So, final question: am I keeping it? The answer is yes. I really like this one. I know a lot of people that like it, and I think it's good. It's a good game to have on my shelf for the future, to bring some joy to some game nights. I think it's a good game. So I'm keeping it, this one, definitely. So, that was another episode of Tabletop Reviews. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please do leave a like, maybe subscribe for the next ones. And I hope to see you in those. Bye!